This is Jacob Carver. Welcome back to the second part of our video game series. Here with Brian from Midnight's Gaming Emporium and Matt from Grindcast.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
We're going to start off this time. We're going to be talking about action, adventure, and arcade games. So we're going to blast right into the big old arcade series known as House of the Dead, which is actually one of the very, and probably can't see jack shit because it has the original, still new sealed cellophane on it. Let's see if Vanna, do your job and get it to show up. Most people probably played this in the arcade. It's a rail type shooter where you use light guns. You go through, was that a mansion or a house?
It's the
And
the both are the exact same idea.
Yeah. And at points and times of the game, it would actually take you to different directions depending upon what you did going up to that point. So it would actually take you to a different way.
Yep.
I don't know.
Paths.
Yep. I guess it has something to do with like if you saved people or you didn't.
Yes.
Might have been how that did. I never actually figured out exactly how that worked.
I know in 2 there were certain stages where there were certain things if you found, it would open up a different path for you to go. And if you kill too many civilians, you have a straight path and stuff like that. So
don't kill civilians, people.
I am the worst person to play with doing those games because I kill absolutely everything that's on the fucking screen.
Oh, I do too.
If you ever, like on our Grinded Word page, there was a time Jason, one of the guys on our show, he was playing, I think it was 2 with me, and I shot a kid directly in the face. And he just comes out, he's like, help! I'm like, pfft.
Actually, I remember watching that on your channel and laughing.
You just shot a kid in the face. Like, well, he's not supposed to be there. It's his fault. He shouldn't be there.
No, like I said, I'm just as bad at that because I believe very strongly in the kill them all and let God sort them out theory of life. So.
And what was it? You're going after G, isn't it? Isn't that the boss's
so,
name?
Yeah. Yeah, they couldn't come up with anything original other than I could see they're at the meeting on, okay, we need the boss's name, and the guy went, oh gee. Perfect, we're going with that.
That's a great name, G.
Good job, Johnson. You're getting a raise.
Raise, promotion, and what's that new console you want to make next year?
Yeah.
Because we've only released 12 of them in the last 8 years. We're falling behind now.
We need to come up with a big name game for the Sega Nomad. Oh boy. Well, no, I was thinking of the Neptune. That was the one that they scrapped.
Yeah, the Neptune.
It was a standalone 32X. This is what it should have fucking been in the first place.
Yep.
So, you got anything more to add to House of the Dead?
Nope, I don't.
Now, have you ever played the third one? The one that was Xbox only at first?
No.
Okay. It's pretty good. It plays the exact same way. The graphics were made, for the more modern era back then. But it's very fucking hard.
Yeah.
I mean, House of the Dead is hard on its own, but the third one is just, relentlessly hard.
Wow. Well, the main thing that I always remembered from playing the game is, they did it intentionally to suck quarters.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever it would come to a stop, but it wouldn't just stop dead, it would then shake back and forth.
Yep.
So when you had that knife or whatever coming at you, there's no way you could possibly hit it.
Yep.
But, it's an arcade game, and it's designed to suck quarters out of you, because that's where they make their money.
Yeah, that's what... Konami and Capcom, thank you so much.
Yeah.
So then, in the same vein of House of the Dead, I brought along a Sega. Now, again, I don't have the original case, so I'm failing as a collector, I guess. But for Sega CD, I brought along Corpse Killer. I don't know if you probably can't see it. It's all the shiny plastic. You can't see through it. Mm-hmm. This game is notorious for its FMV cutscenes. The game starts off where you're like parachuting into this island, and this fucking Jamaican guy in a Jeep picks you up, and he has like the most stereotypical Jamaican accent. It's like the actor, they're like, oh, you're black, you want to be a Jamaican? And he's just like, what?
Yeah,
Just do it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man, we got zombies on this island, brah. And it's just like, and that's the game. And they, like, all the zombies, there was like 3 different animations for zombies, and they all just came in from the background towards you or popped up. So you either just had like this, where it popped up, or you had them just shimmering, like shambling like that. And then it's like there's bats and fucking like doctors and shit. Like you get into a lab that's just on this island. It's like, what the fuck is going on?
I think that's like every Italian zombie movie ever.
Yeah, I
There's
mean,
a fucking
maybe
lab in the middle of the jungle.
it might have been just like extras they had from a zombie film.
Probably.
It's like, hey, we're in Italy. Don't they have that zombie shit around here somewhere?
I got that shit somewhere. I really do.
Now,
To
they
borrow it.
also had that on the 32X, if I remember
They had the
correctly.
Sega CD/32X combo, which doesn't make it any better. I never understood why Sega did that. The fact that they're like, well, now you have to have both this piece of shit and this pile of vomit to play this one fucking game. I never understood why they did that. And the fact that you had to have both consoles, I didn't even understand how the hell that fucking worked.
Yeah.
I've never owned a 32X/Sega CD game. I just
Right.
always bought one or the other because I'm just like, it just seems like some kind of unholy abomination that shouldn't exist.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw how horrible that is to try to hook all that stuff up.
Oh, it's like it looks like the fucking thing's on life support. There's so many wires and cords and shit. Each like I don't know if you're thinking about trying to get all that stuff. 32X has 3 cables that come out of it. One's an AV that plugs into the Genesis. It has its own power cord, and there was another one that it loops around and plugs into the Genesis as well. So then the Genesis needs its own power cord, its own AV cord, and the Sega CD needs its own AV cord and its own power cord. So you basically need to go out and buy one of those professional fucking like highly like the big computer blocks of like power strips where they're nice and evenly spaced because you're not going to fit it on a normal one.
Yep, because those are all those monstrous
Yes.
sized.
Yeah. They're the size of a deck of fucking cards stacked on top of each other.
Way to go,
So,
Sega.
yeah, if you're going to blow the money on doing all that, just be prepared that you need something to plug it all into.
Yeah.
And you might want to call the fire marshal because it might
Just catch
short
fire
blow
one
your
morning.
house up.
Anything else? you
I'm
want to
good.
add? You're good for that?
Yeah,
Yeah. Let's see here. Now let's talk about Nightmare Creatures.
Oh my god.
Came out for the PS1 and 64.
And it was on the Dreamcast.
Yeah.
Oddly enough.
And oddly enough, there's also a second one.
Yeah, I
But-
didn't really think they were that good to warrant a sequel.
No. But it's kind of weird when you read about the story and stuff behind the game. It's one of those, like, where did this come from? Basically, a devil cult makes an elixir to try to make superhumans and ends up turning everybody into monsters and zombies and everything else.
And it's in London, I think it takes
Yes,
place,
it takes
right?
place in London.
So, kind of almost like Bloodborne.
Yeah.
If you think about it. It's in like a Victorian-style setting, and you're going around just killing monsters. I don't know why this guy's the only guy that can do it. They
Yeah,
never
that's
really
pretty
explain
much-
that.
Yeah. The game is very search dependent. You're always looking
Yeah.
to try to find stuff. It's endless swarms of enemies coming at you.
And they're not
It's-
very inventive-looking enemies either. It's
No.
it's the same old fare. Half of the stuff looks like
It's like this,
stuff they just borrowed from Resident Evil.
it does. Yeah, that's kind of like a recurring theme here. Stuff that was borrowed from Resident Evil.
Yeah, like, hey, I like that liquor thing. That looked pretty cool. How about we just actually put a texture over its head so its brain's not sticking out? Then we can't say that we ripped it off. It's our own design.
It also played. You had both a health bar and an adrenaline bar.
Yeah.
You had to keep your adrenaline up which only happened if you were fighting enemies. Because if your adrenaline dropped too far, then you started to lose health from it. So it basically, you never had a chance to just stop and just rest.
It's like the fucking movie Crank.
Yeah. Yeah.
Keep your adrenaline up and you start dying.
Yeah, juice me. But yeah, it's not all that good of a game. I definitely wouldn't recommend it to anybody.
I mean, like, back then, it was passable because that's kind of what you put up with.
And another thing, it was a lot more action-oriented, which really did draw a lot more people into it.
Yeah, it really, like, in the horror realm of it, it basically made it into this episode just because there's monsters and it's dark.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's just a hack and
dark.
slash. Yeah.
And I don't mean dark as in gruesome, I mean it's just dark.
Yeah, as in, like, you're going to go into your gamma settings and set them way fucking high.
Yep. Yep.
But wait, you didn't play any of these, did you? He'll be talking later.
Yeah.
He's getting there.
And I'm still sober, so yeah.
That's true. I mean, I have some fond memories of the first Nightmare Creatures. It was just when you first get like a PlayStation and you're like trying to find stuff that tailors more to like what you want to play, and especially if it's like you like darker stuff. There really wasn't a whole lot around in the beginning.
No.
You had to wait till like the Resident Evils and stuff like that showing up for it to be like, oh, okay, this is more acceptable. It doesn't have to be Hello Kitty Island Adventure. And
then the floodgates opened.
Yeah. But Nightmare Creatures was cool when it first came out just because it gave you the horror setting, but it made it more like a hack and slash, so you didn't have to like conserve ammo and, you know, all this other kind of stuff. Because that's when we talk about Resident Evil later. I have a couple gripes about how it used to work, but that's in the other video. But yeah, I mean, if you can find Nightmare Creatures, give it a shot. That's what I say.
Alrighty. What's our next little adventure?
You want to talk about this big boy right here?
Might as well, because somebody might actually be able to speak.
All right, we're going to talk about for the PlayStation, a classic horror game that was on the PlayStation. Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Let's see if I can't get that in there. Yeah, you all know what the cover looks like. This game is fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
This was, for a lot of people, their first Castlevania game. Because a lot of people didn't get into it on the Nintendo. There was like they went their Mario and their Zelda games, and this Castlevania game was like, oh, that looks too scary for me. I don't know.
And you still play as Simon.
Yeah. Yep. The game's...
Now, this is more of a 3D world than this basic side scroller from the original Castlevania.
This is still 2D, actually. They did this more like Metroid, where there was no set path to go on. It was open and you could go anywhere to find... Basically, you know, if you knew where you were going, you could make this game really fucking easy for yourself. Because you could go to all the right rooms first, get all the right weapons, and it's just a fucking breeze from there. But I loved how... Because this was the first one where they introduced a RPG style to it, where there was a leveling system.
Yeah.
You leveled your weapons, your coats, just your character itself. As your character leveled up, you could get more powers, where you could like turn into mist and bats, and
that opened up the other sections of the game where you could eventually go through. Yep. And you played as Alucard.
Yes, Dracula's son. Which, when the first time I played this, I can't exactly remember which old Hammer movie it was, but when I first saw Alucard's name, I remember back to that scene where it's like the two guys are like looking at the coffin, and it says Alucard, and the guy's like, D-R-A. What are you getting on about? Nothing.
That movie you're talking about, that was the second one. It was the one after
the first Christopher Lee Dracula, right? Yeah. Both good films. But we're talking about games.
Yeah.
This game here, though, was the... I don't know. Yeah, it was the first game that they tried the Metroid style in.
Yes, it is.
And pretty much every Castlevania 2D after that followed this same formula.
Yeah.
because it just worked perfectly. And this game is a tough son of a bitch, too.
Yes, it is. And just when you think you get done,
it flips the fucking castle upside down.
Yep. And you got a whole nother world you got to go through and beat.
Yep. And that's what a lot of people, it blew them away because they're like, just when the castle's upright, it feels like the normal length it would have been for a Nintendo version of this game. And then it flips it upside down, and you're like, do it again. And it's like, holy shit.
And there's so many weapons in the game. You got your sword. You got... there was one that was kind of like Xena's disc thing that
yes,
you could
it was
throw.
like a glaive, yeah.
And that was like one of the most overpowered weapons in the game. You could,
Once you got that, you were set.
Yeah, you could just like one-shot almost anything but bosses.
So they upgraded from the holy water and such.
Yes, they did. I mean, those still make an appearance, but you had better secondary weapons. You had better, like, you didn't have to just stick with the sword either as your main weapon.
Yeah.
You could use the glaive and stuff. This game is also very famous for its voice acting and it's the way things are written. Like the script is great.
Yeah.
You know, like, what is a man? A miserable pile of secrets. How about you?
Yeah.
It's just like, holy shit. And I love the merchant because he's like, what can I do for you? And Alex is like, I'm interested in this.
How much?
Yep.
How many hearts?
How many hearts? So
Was that the currency in that one, or am I thinking of a different one?
I think money was actually.
It was actually money and currency.
Currency of hearts was 2, I believe. Yeah. But this game. If you want it, you can still find it. It's getting a little harder to find, and you probably are going to start. You're probably going to pay around like the $30 to $40 range by now. Its price is starting to go up a little bit.
Yeah. And there's other ways you can get it. I know it was on the PlayStation Network for downloading.
Right. And I think it's on the... If you still have a PSP that works, it was on that Castlevania Chronicles, I believe. That also came with Castlevania X, which was a really good Castlevania game, too. If you get the Japanese port of it, which that's what that was.
Yeah. And also, speaking of Japanese, if you get really lucky, you can get the Japanese Saturn version of it.
If you get very lucky.
Yeah, very, very lucky. And you go, look what I have that 4 other people got. Pretty much is what that falls into. Yeah, but that's such a great game. The whole Metroidvania style. I remember the first time playing through it, it utterly blew me away. The early part with the Grim Reaper. When you just go in there as a total frickin' full-blown badass.
Oh yeah, because you're just
one-shotting everything, and he just comes out and just takes everything from you.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been more pissed in my life.
Yeah.
Well, maybe in my young life. But yeah, it's a fantastic game. I highly recommend it. The only negative thing I have about it is whenever you die, it takes like 5 years to start the game over.
Oh yeah, you don't want to die in the game because the load is absurd.